Title: The Broken Piano. In a small, dimly lit pawn shop on the outskirts of town sat a broken piano. Its keys were yellowed with age, a few of them missing, and the once shiny black finish was now dull and scratched. Most people walked past it without a second glance. It had been in the shop for years, gathering dust and cobwebs, a relic of a time long gone. But one rainy afternoon, a young woman named Clara walked into the shop. She was drawn to the piano almost immediately. There was something about it, a quiet sadness, a story waiting to be told. "Are you sure you want that old thing?" the shopkeeper asked, raising an eyebrow. "It hasn't been played in years. It's barely in one piece." Clara nodded. "I'll take it." The shopkeeper shrugged and sold it to her for next to nothing. Clara had grown up around music. Her mother had been a pianist, filling their small apartment with melodies that seemed to weave magic into the air. But after her mother passed away, the music had stopped. Clara hadn't touched a piano since. Now, as she stood in her tiny flat staring at the broken instrument, she wondered what had compelled her to bring it home. Days turned into weeks, and Clara began working on the piano. She cleaned it, repaired the keys, and polished the wood until it gleamed faintly. It was still far from perfect yet, but it began to look less like a relic and more like an instrument. One evening she sat down and placed her fingers on the keys. They felt strange under her touch, unfamiliar and cold. She pressed a key tentatively, and a soft, slightly off-tune note filled the room. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As the weeks went by, Clara played more often. At first it was simple scales and hesitant chords, but gradually the music grew. She began playing the songs her mother had loved, pieces that had once echoed through their home. Her neighbours would stop to listen through the thin walls, enchanted by the imperfect, heartfelt melodies. But one day, as she was playing, Clara noticed something strange. A faint, almost imperceptible hum came from the piano. It wasn't the sound of the strings or the keys. It was something deeper, as if the piano itself was trying to speak. Curious, Clara opened the lid of the piano. Tucked inside, hidden beneath years of dust, was a small stack of letters. They were tied together with a faded ribbon and addressed to someone named Eleanor. Clara's hands trembled as she opened the first letter. "My dearest Eleanor, I miss you more than words can say. This piano was meant to be our beginning, a way to fill our lives with music and joy. But now, it only reminds me of what I've lost. Forever yours, James." Each letter told the story of a man named James, who had bought the piano as a gift for Eleanor, the woman he loved. But something had happened. Eleanor had left, and James had poured his heartbreak into the piano, writing letters he never sent and playing songs he never finished. Clara was moved by the story. She felt a connection to James, a shared sense of loss and longing. She decided to learn more about him and Eleanor. She visited the local archives and discovered that James had been a composer in the 1940s. Eleanor, a talented singer, had been his muse. They had planned to perform together, but their dreams were cut short when Eleanor moved abroad and never returned. James had lived the rest of his life in the same town, composing music he never shared with the world. When he passed away, the piano ended up in the pawn shop, forgotten like the letters inside it. Inspired, Clara decided to bring James's music to life. She carefully studied the faded sheet music she found among the letters and began practicing the pieces. They were hauntingly beautiful, filled with raw emotion and unspoken words. A year later, Clara performed James's compositions at a small recital in the town's community hall. The audience was captivated, moved to tears by the melodies that seemed to carry the weight of love, loss, and longing. After the performance, an elderly woman approached Clara. "That was James's music, wasn't it?" the woman asked, her voice trembling. Clara nodded. "You knew him?" The woman smiled faintly. "I'm Eleanor," she said. "I never knew he kept writing after I left. I thought he had forgotten me." Clara handed Eleanor the letters, watching as the older woman read them with tears in her eyes. For the first time in decades, Eleanor sat at the piano and played one of James's songs, her hands shaky but determined. The notes filled the room, blending the past with the present, turning heartbreak into something beautiful. That night, as Clara watched Eleanor play, she realized the piano wasn't broken after all. It had simply been waiting for someone to hear its story, for someone to give it a voice. And now, at last, its song was complete.